She's definitely my better half, I can promise you that. Just got to do something to keep her from going crazy with those three kids every day. Okay, everybody's doing good today? Yes, sir. Good. I think reality kind of settles in. There's only one way to get in condition to play this game. We can, work on speed improvement. We can do conditioning tests. We can lift weights. We can do football activity, even T-shirts. But I think you got to put the gear on, and you've got to get on the field, and you got to start working against each other. There's just a certain conditioning element to this game that is different. Certainly the fundamentals and techniques that are important at each position group, are different with gear on. So, I think we're hard at work here trying to create a practice environment where we are building habits that will hold up on game day, right? Communication that will hold up on game day. Fundamentals, execution that will hold up on game day against the absolute best competition in the country. So we're working on our football. I do think we're working on our mindset, right? We've taken the gloves off, and we've really decided to be uncompromising. We're holding nothing back. And we understand that requires our total focus because of the type of competitors that we want to be. We're also working on our team. I do think we've agreed it to an expectation. One of the things I like about this group is they are very accountable, and I think that they care about each other. So I do want to say thank you to all the fans that came out for Fan Day Saturday, and certainly all the people that stayed around for the autograph session that was available via Florida Victorious. That'll become an annual event. It'll be the first Saturday of training camp each year going forward, and we look forward to that. So what questions do we have?
Billy, you talked about it in Nashville, your kind of timetable on a quarterback. Do you hope to have something by week's end there?
Yeah, we've got 3 practices here. We're off today, we're reloading today, and then we'll be kind of prepping for the scrimmage. So I think we could, that'll have a lot to do with it. But we've seen the body of work. I think it's all going to matter. But we're right in the middle of that process. We do have competition, and I'm looking forward to watching those guys in a couple more days.
Where do you stand? What's your level of contentment, I guess, with the vertical passing game at this point?
Yeah, I've been very pleased. I think the young receivers in particular, I think, are adding a dimension to our team. And I think we've seen some players emerge and improve. So, yeah, I've been very pleased with that. I think we're making progress in that area.
Those freshman receivers, what stood out to you so quickly about them, and what do you think is the qualities that might allow them to contribute early?
Well, they're all I think, extremely fast. I think that always helps, right? So, documented speed. I think Andy and Aiden and Trey, all 3, are verified fast, and I think it's receiver is still a very skilled position. So it's one thing to be fast. It's another thing to play fast, right? So there's a mental component here relative to my assignment, my technique, my adjustment to the coverage, whether it's steps or depth or landmarks on the field. I think we're seeing kind of them get comfortable. I think Trey in particular, I thought last night really cut it loose for the first time. He's kind of had a soft tissue issue to start camp. So I think his presence was known out there last night. I think he'll make our team better. I think those guys, they've got character. They want to be good players. They're good teammates. And I think they're hard at work trying to improve at their role relative to the team.
You mentioned the vertical passing game. Anthony was a special arm talent, obviously. What are your thoughts about the quarterbacks you have now in terms of delivering the ball and how much are you charting that?
Yeah, no, I think we've connected on a number of deep balls so far in training camp, in all thirds of the field, and I think these guys can do what we ask our quarterback to do. I've got no issue there.
You mentioned the conditioning element. Where have you seen improvement, and what do you still think needs to maybe take a step forward before the season opener?
Yeah, I just think that every coach probably would tell you that, and really every player. Those are things I hear from players, just in common conversation. We're in great shape, but it's different when you got pads on and you're banging on each other, So the ability to add the gear and then, okay, we've got to go compete, in a practice setting, right? So there's a conditioning level that goes with practicing the game of football. So I think we're making progress there. But, you put those pads on for the first couple of times. Last night, I think, was the first full gear practice that we've had. So we'll continue to get better there.
Do you have an updated timetable for Shamar? And then what have you seen from the rest? It's a really competitive room. What have you seen from the rest of the guys stepping up in his absence?
Yeah, Shamar is probably a week to 10 days, I would say, if that makes sense. We'll probably err on the conservative side. But he's already made significant progress there. So it is beneficial for our team. There's no question that group as a whole is getting more reps. They're having to work in different combinations, so the communication piece is important. And it really helps you evaluate depth at that position. And it presents opportunity. I think sometimes we view attrition or injury as a negative. But reality is, if you look at it right, these guys can get a chance to work. So that group, I've been very pleased with that group. A lot of new faces. And I'm proud of some of these guys that have been around here a while and the growth that they've shown in year two. Scooby, Wingo in particular, those two guys. And then you've got, all these newcomers, Deuce, Manny, Jaden, Taraja. This time last year they were somewhere else. So it's beneficial for the Gators.
Can you add a note also on Devin Moore and where he's at right now?
So Devin Moore is in return to play protocol. Should be a couple of days here. He'll be back. So just a upper body injury there that he'll be back ready to go soon.
Going back to Fan Day, a number of teams around the country are to go away for camp for a couple of days. Maybe, I don't know if that's recruiting or just to get away, team building. Would you consider making that Fan Day a traveling roadshow? You got a pretty good setup here, but was that something that's ever?
That's a great question. I think it's a little bit like the NFL to some degree in that regard. That's what we want it to be like. But it's early in training camp. Everybody's relatively healthy. The install is relatively new. Our fans, if you think about it, outside of game day, they see the spring game, but I think it's a unique perspective. Like, what does a typical practice look like from beginning to end? So, we're centrally located in our state. I can't imagine being in a better place, right, relative to people's ability to get to campus. So I think we will stick with the approach that we used the other day. Now, if we were in Miami or Tallahassee or somewhere like that, but I think it's advantageous for us to be right where we're at.
When you look at how the landscape of college football in terms of conference alignment, was it sad? Was it weird? Was it like there was a part of you feel like your childhood's taken away? Or I don't know.
Yeah, it's unusual, It's just becoming more and more obvious, right? The revenue that's being generated in college football, right? This is all, a result of the financial implications of our game and how popular the game is, right? And so we're just it's a really unique time. The game's never been more popular. So, and the reality is our athletic departments are dependent on that, relative to having successful athletic departments, and not just the game of football, but all sports, so these teams get put in these unique situations where they're, there's a risk reward, and they're making these decisions, based off of the financial implications. And I think that not only affects the football part, but it affects all sports at each university, right? So, it's a catch-22, right? Like, some of these teams that travel a significant amount and play a lot of away games, their students and their coaching staffs are going to have unique experiences. But if the administration doesn't make the decision relative to the financial implications, and that's going to change their entire experience as well, right? So I just think we're living in a unique time here. So
I like unique. It's a very neutral word. Seems
Yeah.
seems intentional.
I mean, you can see both sides here, right? So we're blessed, right? We're regional. We've got a great league. We've got stability. We've got momentum. So we're in a good place. So I think the group of 5 time that I had, makes me aware of all the things that come with this.
What's your assessment of the defensive line so far compared to last year? I know it's hard to tell because you've only had one full day and full pads and everything, but
Yeah, we've added really, I think we're probably a deeper group. We're taller, we're longer. I think across the board, inside and on the edge, we have more capable players. It's very competitive. So the transfers help inside, and I think the young players on the edge make a difference. So we're going to be dependent on young players this year. So, but I think we got good ones.
Speaking of young players, the Orlando area produced several on the roster and a few flashed the other day. Just how critical is that area just to be mining talent out of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why this is a really good job, right? I mean, there's a ton of really good football players that can get in the car and drive here, right? So more exposures we have with the players, the better relationships we can build, the more evaluation opportunities we have. We've got a great Gator alumni presence in that part of the country. And it's not just Orlando. I mean, it's all parts of the state, right? So the player production is second to none. And Orlando's been good to the Gators. And look, I mean, history would say when the Gators have had good teams, they've been regionally. They've done a really good job in recruiting. So we need to continue to do that in all parts of our state.
We saw the Taraji Mitchell, the other day, and, Derek Wingo talked about his leadership. But what's he bringing from a physicality and a leadership standpoint there?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very pleased with Taraji. I mean, the physical ability, I think, is there. But I think the most important piece here is just the maturity, the leadership, the perspective on things. It's almost a coach's perspective. And I think he's a guy who's played a lot of football. I mean, this guy was voted team captain at Ohio State. And you go back to when we made the decision to recruit him and add him to the team. I mean, it's a home run, So I think he's right in the middle of some really intense competition relative to what is his role, But he's made our team better.
Curious what you think about injury reports, because Brian Kelly said last week he's going to start making them public 3 times a week, like the NFL does, and because he cites gambling and
Right.
and all that. Of course, the other argument is it's proprietary information, and why give somebody tipping off?
Right.
Where have you thought much about that, and where do you come down?
Yeah, I mean, we made a decision a long time ago to be pretty open book. I mean, I think the NFL's got it figured out. And again, all these things in the National Football League are bleeding down into our game as it becomes more, the compensation or name, image, and likeness opportunity, the gambling. So, much like we've done in the past, we're going to be pretty transparent when it comes to injuries.
Would you like to see a national NCAA adopt just a standard rule? Because that, some coaches says, I'll do it if other people do it, but I'm not going to do it before.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. And then you're going to see there'll be a little bit of cat and mouse, right? Just like there is every week in the National Football League, right? So I think Tom Brady was on the injury report every week, right, early in the week. So there's going to be some of that, but it is what it is. I mean, Vegas has got it figured out. That's what I would tell you.
Two more questions, guys.
You mentioned federal oversight in the past, and I wouldn't say you've necessarily called for it too largely, but I don't know if that's the right term, but do some of these things, conference realignment, injury reports being up to the team, do they make you kind of still think of that?
Yeah, I mean, we at some point here, I think we all can agree there's going to be some overall realignment relative to the teams that are capable of producing revenue and competing at a certain level. And I think we'll have some standardized rules, parameters, guidelines to all these things that affect the game, right? So, but right now we don't, right? So we're going to operate the way that we do in this competitive environment, try to put the Gators in position. So, these are things that this is really a complicated issue, right, relative to all there's legal issues here relative to employee law. It's a very complicated issue, right? I mean, relative to state law, federal oversight. I mean, we've made a big push, but what's resulted? Do we have any results? So time will tell. That's what I would tell you. In the meantime, we got to get Gators ready to play 23.
Time for one more, guys.
Billy, you said that you're going to have a lot of freshmen playing in the secondary. I think we've seen in camp that's not just out of necessity, but out of ability, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of guys making plays at every single position. Just how do you feel about your DB class and how much they're going to be able to contribute?
Yeah, no, I think we've done well for ourselves there. They're all bright. They're all eager. I think we recruited them for a reason. I think they're going to make our team better. I mean, outside of DD, these guys were here in January, so DD would be the one guy who's doing additional work, extra walks, extra meets. That's the benefit of training camp is we have no time restriction. So a guy like him, he's able to do the extra. But, these other guys, I mean, we're living in an era of college football where a rookie's got to play, a free agent's got to play, right? Whether it's the portal or a high school player. So you got to build your systems in a way to where a first-year player can contribute and make a major difference in your team, right? So I think getting them in here in January is the first step to that. And all those guys, AG is making progress with the knee. He would be the other player that maybe is a little bit behind, but we couldn't be more pleased with that group as a whole.
We'll actually finish here with Zach Goodall.
It's just on the same topic across the roster. Have you been, surprised, or could you speak a little bit to the acclimation of these freshmen that, it seemed like in practice the other day, anywhere you looked, there was someone involved in either making a play or in team drills and just comfortable already?
Yeah, I really believe in what we do and how we do it relative to our year-round plan to help develop the player. And, there's a mental component, and then there's the physical component. So each player is a little bit different, right, relative to, where are they at in all parts of life, So I think that goes back to the evaluation piece, and then, you adjust in how you teach each individual. What's the workload look like? I think being here in January is a big deal, So we install in the off-season program. We do it in spring practice. And we do that over 34, 35 days, right? So that's the best teaching block we have. And then we go back, some A, some are B, and this is the 5th time we've covered the material, right? So, again, these are all very capable young people. Now, do they quite understand the urgency, that they're going to feel when it's go time, right? That goes back to what I'm talking about here. Communication, fundamentals, and execution that will hold up on game day, right? It's completely different. And I think the fan day there was part of that experience for a lot of our young players that you could kind of see it on their look on their face. I mean, things about 5% capacity, but they felt that, if that makes sense. So it's a good group. I'm excited about, each one of them are in a completely different place, right? So it's the fun thing about coaching, right? Is you get to start that process, and then, you kind of get a chance to finish and see that through at the end. So very proud of that group so far.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. You got it.